Podcast with your host, Jake Weaver. Engineered by Cedric Swan. Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Midnight on Earth. I'm your host, Jake Weaver, and we're here to bring you more knowledge, more lights, and more love. Today, again, we have an incredible guest. We have the best guests. There's so many great people out there in the world doing great work, and we have another one here. Yanik Silver is here, and he's going to talk about his recent book, The Cosmic Journal, The Cosmic Journey, Oracle, and really everything he's about. He's about a lot of different things. But first, before we talk to him, I need you to do something for me. Go to patreon.com/midnightonearth and check out our new Patreon page. Yes, it's true. We have a Patreon page, a place where you can go to support us directly. All of the money that is collected via Patreon enables the growth of this podcast. It helps it get out to more people around the world. And today, I'm excited to announce that we have reached 160 countries. It goes up and up and up. Eventually, we'll have reached the entire world. In order for me to do that, to get the messages of these guests out there more, to create a situation where I can devote even more of my life to this incredible program and this information than I'm already doing, which is over the top. So I need your help. I need your support. So that is what Patreon is for. Go there, become a patron of this podcast. There's going to be exclusive content. There's tiers of support. You can choose a tier that suits you. And again, just know that support is what I need in order to expand this thing, to make it bigger, to help me help you and the world, because we're all one. So let's help each other. Go there, patreon.com/midnightonearth. When you're done with that, follow me on Instagram at midnight_on_earth. That is the address. You can follow us there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you go to get your podcast, click that button that connects us. So when incredible people like Yanik come on, the technology expresses itself. And it's going to be amazing. You'll get a notification. And most importantly, tell a friend. Tell someone that you know that loves these type of podcasts. You know them. They're your coworkers, your friends, your family. Bring them here, midnightonearth.com. Okay. So before we can talk to Yanik, we have to read his bio. So here we go. Yanik Silver has been called a cosmic catalyst, a Maverick Mischief-maker, and a Galactic Goofball. He redefines how business is played in the 21st century at the intersection of more profits, more fun, and more impact. Yanik is the creator of the Cosmic Journal, author of Evolved Enterprise, and the founder of Maverick 1000, a global network of top entrepreneurs and visionary entrepreneurs making a serious difference in the world. Without taking themselves too seriously. In fact, it's not unusual to find him dressed as a lemur, a showgirl, or even in matching mermaid tails with Sir Richard Branson. This group periodically assembles for breakthrough retreats, rejuvenating experiences, and impact opportunities, and to date raising over $3 million with participating icons such as Sir Richard Branson, Sara Blakely, Tony Hawk, Chris Blackwell, Paul DeJoria, Russell Simmons, Tim Ferriss, and many others. Yanik served on the Constellation board for Virgin Unites, the entrepreneurial foundation of the Virgin Group and Branson family, and his lifetime goal is to connect visionary leaders and game changers to catalyze business models and new ideas for solving 100 of the world's most impactful issues by the year 2100. Big ideas. This guy has big ideas. It's amazing. He calls Potomac, Maryland home with his wife, Missy, and his two mini-maverick adventures in the making, Zack and Zoe. And undaunted, his love of doodling still continues to this day. And he's here with us now. Hello, Yanik. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Jake. What's up?
I'm glad we got that primer on your life. That's amazing. That bio was monstrous.
I think we got the long version. So there's a much shorter version too. But.
That's okay. We want to tell people who you are. Dennis McKenna did the same thing. He said the exact same thing. And the thing is that people want to know about you. They want to know what you've done and what you think and what your life's about and your recent book. So let's just start at the beginning. Okay. Tell me how you became this conscious entrepreneur, because you seem like you understand a lot of these higher knowledge concepts, and yet you're working them into the business world. Not that that's not a higher place in itself, but it is a little more in the third dimension. How are you doing this?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this.
Well, I mean, I actually think that business can be the greatest lever for making a difference in the world. And all of that is about how do we bring higher consciousness to it. So where it came from is kind of like everything, like all at once and in little pieces, right? Like along the way. So when, some of the people that you mentioned that were participating icons and some of the things that we do, really learn some of the incredible pieces of having a higher intention and higher way of having an impact in your business. So I have to maybe go back So I started in the digital marketing world, did pretty well there. And then people were like, oh, how did you do that? Could you teach me how to do that? And so everything was kind of great. And then I asked myself a really simple question, which was, am I happy? Yanik, are you happy? Would you be happy, 10 years from now? And so in my journals, I do a lot of journaling. The real answer was no, when I got really, really honest. And it seemed like such a simple question, like, are you happy? And so that led to me starting Maverick, which is all those things that you kind of mentioned. And it was all around make more, give more, and have more fun. And I thought, okay, well, this is going to make me happy. I'm going to hang out with other amazing entrepreneurs. We're going to have business experiences, adventures. We're going to have a charity element. All of it sounded well and good. And then about $400,000 in, my wife's like, what the hell are you doing? Because the other company is really funding a lot of that. And I was just cutting off so much of the other pieces that weren't in full alignment, because I felt like there's something bigger that I could be doing and helping others. And so that was really a turning point where it was like, okay, well, I could keep doing everything I had been doing before, or this thing that is very uncertain, but there's a bigger reason why here. And when I started examining the why was not to just create an adventure travel company. It was to really change the way business is played. And so it really forced me to step into the unknown. I talk about a lot, like following your heart is frequently scary, but never wrong. And that's where some of these nets started appearing when you take those leaps, and then also meeting some very interesting celebrities, but then also unknown people that had all the pieces of, this greater impact and greater consciousness and business and what that could be.
Interesting. So were you a spiritual person, kind of a conscious person on your own, or did this kind of activate you more?
Both. So as a kid, I was definitely a weird kid. I loved, I was really interested as a, I don't know, a young teenager, maybe 12, 13, into like, I was into Stonehenge and the pyramids, and I was into UFOs and just anything like parapsychology. I was just intrigued by everything. I'm like, this is fascinating. And then I kind of put it away for a long time. And then when I got to that spot where everything I had known before, been pretty successful. And then this was the only thing that wasn't working. And I was like, okay, well, what is going on? It really forced me to go back to almost like bedrock. And so I'd been studying, as again, a weird kid. I worked for my dad's business since I was about 14, telemarketing. At 16, I got a car if I went out and cold called, and our clients were doctors. I'm this little 16-year-old punk calling on 56-year-old doctors. And it was an incredible learning experience, but I also realized that it really sucked to cold call. And one of my doctor clients who I sold an entire surgery center to, he gave me a tape that really kind of turned my eyes onto a new way of marketing, where you could actually write a letter and have people raise their hands and be like, oh yeah, I'm interested. And it's a whole direct response, learning about how to do that. And I was just fascinated by it. And then at the same time, I got into like Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn and some of these other just
legends.
I don't know, just touchstones. Yeah, legends for sure. Where I'd have all these tapes across the bottom of my passenger seat. My buddies, my hockey buddies, would get in the car and be like, "Dude, what is this?" I'm like, you won't like this." and I learned from Earl Nightingale, where it's like, well, so many things. One was, if you want to become an expert in anything, you read for 1 hour a day for 3 years, or become a world expert by doing that for 5 years. And so for me, with that whole marketing and copywriting, I was like just fascinated by it. I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I did it for 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day? But I was also just immersing myself in this transformative personal growth. So then when things weren't quite working, it literally was bedrock of like, okay, what have I learned from 20, 25, 30 years of this stuff? And what is it? And so it literally went back to some of those spiritual principles. I remember, and like, I love synchronicities. I love magic when it shows up, because it really kind of points you into the right direction. And so when I was in this in-between kind of stumbling phase about, okay, what am I doing with this company? I remember, so my wife is very, very afraid of any kind of bugs. And so when I go off somewhere, maybe playing adult hockey or whatever, I come home late at night. I remember one night she's like, you need to take care of this one bug. And it was underneath a book. And she's like, I placed it there so the bug doesn't move. And it was a book called The Great Work of Your Life by a guy named Stephen Cope. And so, when books appear like that, you pay attention. And I had bought it, or someone gave it to me. I can't remember. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And it takes apart the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of our, most incredible spiritual texts, and then applies it to people's lives, like Nelson Mandela or Susan B. Anthony or others that are famous, but then also not so famous people, regular people, when they found their true dharma and how they've really just exploded into what they're meant to be doing. And so I read this book and I'm like, okay, well, this is really where I am in this inflection point. And so all these different things really helped bring about, I don't know, I guess a spiritual renaissance in a way, and then applying it to businesses.
Well, it needs to happen, because these things like business are foundational functions of the human experience. They've been with us since we've been trading. I mean, the business concept, creating entities to distribute or create a service or some kind of situation, it's ingrained almost in our DNA. I mean, the market itself, you could say there's a sacredness to markets because of the energy that's behind it.
Yeah, there is definitely a sacredness to it when it's done with greater intention, with real purpose, with real just mission and impact built into it. And so that's, the book that I wrote based on these pieces that came to me was The Evolved Enterprise. And actually it's been about 6 years now since I put it out. And in there's an entire framework and process, but it starts with you. So all that work that I was doing was actually like, you have to evolve, and that's a never ending cycle really, but you have to get really deep into, who you are. A lot of times, so me as an entrepreneur, I was successful with what I did, but it wasn't completely fully fulfilling. That was that question, like, am I happy with what I'm doing? Would I be happy if I was doing it 10 years from now?
Right.
And when you really start examining that, it takes courage to look at, okay, even especially if you're successful, because outside looking in, everything looks great. and you're like, okay, well, what am I, really meant to be doing? I talk about connecting your head, which is your business side, along with your heart, which is your impact that you want to make in the world, and then your higher purpose. Like, how do we align all of it? Like, higher purpose is like, why are we here? What did you volunteer for? What's the real reason that you showed up, and how do we align all of it? And so that's sort of that evolutionary work, and that requires deep introspection as well, and reflection. So shadow work, any kind of deep work to really find out who you are. And then from that comes the real enterprise, this evolved enterprise that you want to grow or tweak or evolve with what you're already doing. So that comes the next layer out is this cause, like why. So, so when I was kind of going sideways with Maverick, I had to tap into that why. And the why, again, wasn't to build an adventure travel company, but it was to change the way business is played. And actually, one of my favorite questions during this period was, I asked my 111-year-old self, I said, okay, what do I need to know? And I use my non-dominant hand. So I use my left hand to write. And the answer was light 1,000 suns who each have the potential to light another 1,000 suns. And that became the overall greater mission of what we were doing. It changed really everything of what we were doing with Maverick to more of this evolutionary growth. So originally it was a $, a happy face, and a heart, all interconnected. And then we changed it to a tree to really represent growth. So that evolutionary and transformative growth and the business growth, and then the heart and the happy face all remain the same. So the essence was the same, but it was just a little tweak that was really needed to get us into that right spot. And so that's the cause. And the cause comes from, like, what do you want to see in the world? Like, maybe what is a wrong that you want to right, or what is the thing that you care the most about, or what do your customers or clients, what do they care the most about? And that's that cause, that deep why. And then beyond that, and you want to incorporate that into everything that you're doing. And then that builds the community that you're serving, create more like zealot fans instead of just customers, or even like words are really important. As I started as a copywriter. So, when people talk about a consumer good or something like that, that already means that, someone's just consuming it. There's no real relationship there. So a community has a deeper relationship. And so that builds your community and the culture, and then the creation, which is the product or service. So that's part of the framework of what that could mean.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, Yanik. I want to talk to you about a few things that you just said. Okay, so really, we've talked about this on the show before. It's kind of a formula, and tell me what you think about this. Talent plus service equals purpose. Because when you discover your talent, that then can become your service. And your service, when your talent and your service are aligned, whether it's in the business world or whatever it's showing up, then that's your purpose. Your service is your purpose. And also, it seems the greatest goal, like we have these goals. We have these goals to heal, to help the earth, and do all these amazing things. But really, there's this overarching goal that you can say is the goal of all goals. And that's to unite the earth and create this wonderful planet where we're all together living in harmony, right? And truly, we've evolved past conflict, right? So it seems like with our business choices, or whatever our focus is with our life energy, if we plant that flag and that greater goal, a lot of things can happen. And we have the microcosmic version of that, right? Of like our personal goals and what we're doing with our businesses and how we're doing it consciously. But there's always that higher goal that we're pushing towards as a collective. Tell me what you think about that, Yanik.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, talent and service equals purpose. I think that's a good part of the formula. There's a couple parts maybe that I might add, or one part especially is play. So I was just talking about this with one of my business partners. We were talking about this concept that I have, which is play fully, purposefully, profit fully, and play fully. The fully's in parentheses. So play really represents one of the highest essences of what we can be doing here. So to me, talent represents that in a way, like when we're doing something that is really engaging and it's really meant for us, it's our unique genius. It feels like play. So it's not just like play, like I'm going to go play, I don't know, hockey or volleyball or whatever, but play like fully utilizing who you are and your talent and unique expression of who you are, and then applying it into greater service for the world. That is, to me, play fully, which then creates this purposefully and then profit fully as a byproduct. So, every time I've done a lot with entrepreneurs at all levels, and we talk about value creation. So one of the very first things I wrote in my journal, I don't know, 30 years ago was, I am enriched fully by providing 10x to 100x in value to anyone that I serve, or something like that. So it's about value creation and that 10x to 100x. So that's that service aspect. And so, yeah, that the formula has, I like that formula in some way. That I'd probably I'd add play. I'd add something that, that really brought it alive as well. And, there's, I think all of it is there. Like all of these are fractals, right? Like
yes.
they're the aspects of like they hold the little gem of everything. And that's where all the best wisdom is. It's like you can compress it or you can keep expanding it.
Yes, and everyone can have their unique spin on it. But what I've noticed, and it seems like we've learned from a lot of the same people, I'm a big Earl Nightingale fan, big time. And I've noticed that as you study more and more and more, you find out that all of those concepts are Hermetic concepts. They go back to ancient Egypt and even before. They're somehow ancient. And nobody knows where they're coming from, but they're coming through these new teachers over time. There was the turn of the 20th century kind of wave of authors and teachers. And then people like Earl were a part of another wave, but they're all kind of showing us these same methods, these same techniques from that ancient time.
Yeah. Well, if it's truth, right? So Jake, it's going to be a facet of truth, right? So it's always going to contain, like if we actually go back and study different spiritual practices, religious practices at their sort of Gnostic level, at the real deep level, it's all the same.
Yes.
It's because it comes from the same place as you're mentioning. I forgot how you called it, but I think of like the cosmos, the universe wants to evolve in this certain way. And the individuals who are the clear channels for it, they're going to be receiving that same kind of download, transmissions, whatever it is. And then of course it's going to be filtered through their own, unique viewpoint and paradigms and lenses, but it's coming from that same single source.
Yes. And it's something about the evolution of humanity. I mean, we're going to talk about your book. I want to talk about your book, but man, we're having a great conversation here, but there's something about the evolution of humanity that's a part of that, right? Like there's something that wants to evolve, and that energy is about moving us forward and expansion, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's not about, me, Yanik, or you, Jake, doing whatever. It's how do we fully tap into what is this deep, I feel like when we're in alignment with what, let's take talent and service as that example. When you're in that alignment and it's pure, then you're really that channel for this evolutionary growth and conscious evolution that's happening. And it is happening. So if you study, I know you do,
yes.
Like these deep wisdom traditions, so many different ones talked about these cycles of evolution, right? So, we had the golden age and the silver age, and then bronze and iron age. And so a lot of people think about history as this linear process, but really a lot of civilizations, also like the Mayans, the Indian yugas, they would talk about these cyclical time period, like time was a cycle. And so I think of it that same way, but then also like this evolutionary cycle where it goes up and spirals up like this. But so you're seeing that cycle, and just like, it's a very simple concept, because everything, again, as you said, is hermetic and as above, so below. And all these things are correspondence, because if you think about day and night, right, that's a 12-hour roughly cycle of light and dark. Then you got your seasons, that's the same thing. And then you have these other big periods of time. And why were Mayans, why they have 13 calendars, including one that was 5,000 some years. And so you multiply that by 5, it's roughly equal to the precession in this whole great year. And if you just take it in a very simplistic way of about, 13,000 years of darkness and 13,000 years of light, we're coming into this ascending level of consciousness. That's why conversations like this are happening. That's why when I hang out with other entrepreneurs, they're talking about meditation, or they're talking about other things that are awakening in them. And I love it, because they are one of the concepts I have is bloom where you're planted. So not bloom where you're planted. And I'll tell you like how that came about in a second too, because it was very synchronistic.
Please.
But bloom where you're planted was like, if you're in the medical field or you're in this, production spot or you're, wherever you are, and then you're being lit up and then you can light others and where you become a lighthouse for others within your industry or category, that's where you're going to be able to bloom, because that's, there's a reason that you're in a particular industry or marketplace or wherever you are. And to me, business isn't bad. It's how do we use it in a way that is more conscious and can be a greater lever for good. So all those things can be that impetus and catalyst for this evolutionary growth that we're really leaning into.
Yes. And like we were saying earlier, it's part of the human experience. It's foundational how we interact and transact with each other. We just have to dial it in more, just like all the other functional aspects of the human experience where there's unconsciousness. There's a need for some of those things, but we just have to dial it in more. We have to tighten it up and make it a higher frequency experience, just all around. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's the greater intentionality? What's the real purpose behind it? And also learning from, one of the things that I'd like to do in my lifetime and hopefully sooner than later is help add more. So I've been really fortunate to learn from some incredible indigenous elders and teachers and wisdom keepers. And so a lot, we'll talk about the hoop of life, which is every creature, being, everything has a place on that hoop of life, right? Humans only have one spot on the hoop of life. It's not the end all. It's everything. The ant, the water, the ocean, all that has a spot on this hoop of life. And so imagine if companies had, just like, Jeff Bezos is kind of famous for holding an empty chair in meetings, which is the chair represents the customer. So what if companies held an empty chair to represent the earth in some way, or have an advisory board that also thought way beyond just a transactional nature, but thought about what is the reciprocation of us with the earth.
Or what if they just brought in the shamanic perspective? They just brought in that greater consciousness.
Yeah, 100%. I have these 20 predictions for the 2020s, and one of them is kind of maybe far out there, but I see it happening. Is like I feel like there's going to be corporate shamans. And the corporate shamans are going to be holding the greater intention of, when you can tell the difference, right? When you have a meal infused with love, or there's a product or service, provided with love, versus just simply going through the motions of what it is. And so that to me, the intentionality is going to become even greater for everything that we do.
It does seem that way, but that's part of our ascension process. Like all of our daily rituals, how we interact with each other, it's all going to kick up to a higher octave.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fun. And we're in this really, really interesting time period where it's all shaking up and seeing who's going to, there's I think an aspect that wants to hold on to control really, really tightly and continues to grasp it even tighter. And then there's another aspect, which is just naturally in alignment with this evolutionary flow that wants to happen, which is decentralization and cooperation and coordination. And you look at, I don't know, like everything from let's say way back, a single cell organism to then a multi-cell organism to becoming let's say an organ in the human body to then the human body itself, and then the human body as another organism of the earth and so forth. And you just keep having this exponential growth in that way. And that's where we are. It's like that's the natural progression of things, and that it can't be stopped.
No, it's unstoppable because it's happening in a way that's bigger than just the earth. The universe itself, our galaxy, it's all evolving. There's a magnetism that's pulling us all forward that's truly beyond human consciousness. But in our talk, I want to help people, spiritual people, feel like and understand money is okay. Because as we get into a higher frequency existence, guess what? We're still going to use currency. We're still going to use methods of transactions that are mediums between two people or organizations and a person, things like that. So many new age spiritual people, metaphysical people have this aversion to the energy of money. Now, I know that me and you are past that, but how can we, in a very bare bones sense, help people understand that money's just neutral energy and it actually is spiritual and sacred in its own way?
Well, I'll back up and kind of, share about myself, which is interesting, right? Because like you said, we're over that. So as I said, at the very beginning of my journal, in my beginning of my sort of entrepreneurial journey, I wrote, I get rich by enriching others 10x to 100x of what they pay me in return. So to me, the value, that was always the lever, that was the touchstone, 10x to 100x in value. And so if you think in value, that's a tremendous way of thinking about it. And then I went through this period where things were just going kind of sideways. And it was really odd because I had built 7 or 8 different projects, all hit the 7-figure mark in sales without really much effort aside, just, intuitively deciding what I was going to do next. And then this project that I was so passionate about that I felt was like, one of the ultimate expressions of who I wasn't working. And that's why it really forced me to look deeper into, again, that why. And when you start aligning that why, then things opened up even more. And so money is, you can start researching money and currency, and there's a lot of interesting aspects of it. But, to me, if you think of it as currency, like words are really important, right? So currency is a great way of thinking about it. And it is an exchange. It's a value exchange. It's it's an exchange of, if we even go as far as saying it's exchange of love, like we were talking about, like something that's created out of love has a better resonance to it, than a higher resonance than something else that's just designed to extract money. So that's why, even like the words that we use are so important, right? Like we talked, I said like consumers, right? If you're thinking about your buyers as a consumer, that's not a lot of consciousness in that choice of vocabulary.
End user is another one.
What is it?
End user. I've heard that.
End user. Yeah. Right. So, and there's I think your words really create your world. So really pay attention. Like you bring awareness to what are those words that we're using. And in marketing, it's really easy to get sucked into stuff where it's like, end user or consumer packaged good, or who's the consumer, or who's the, let's create, who are we, even like almost like warlike words where it's like, okay, what's the tripwire for this buyer? What's the, I don't know, like who are we targeting? And so like it takes away the essence of that. You're delivering something to provide someone with a better life, to be of service to them. Yes. And how do we get back into that? And that's where there's going to be a natural flow. And if you're not seeing a natural flow, and it's also give and take too, just like breathing, right? Like the more we can't just breathe in or we can't just breathe out. It doesn't work that way. So that's, this currency also has to be in current, like it has to be in this flow of giving and receiving, and what does it look like? And you can get like focused on, you can get so focused on money that it takes away from what is the essence of what you want to deliver. Or you can be like, I don't care about money. It's not a thing, but it is a thing in a way, because the more resources you have, I always said that money amplifies who you are. If you're a kind person, if you're someone that wants to make a greater difference in the world, it's only going to amplify who you are with the more resources that you have. And if you're not a kind person, if you're someone that, is trying to I don't know, to
do something wrong, just something awful,
whatever. Like, right. It's just going to amplify that. Like, you can be more of a jackass by having more resources. So again, it's what you're doing with it, and how are you a steward of those resources?
I just feel like spiritual people, if they recalibrated themselves, the ones that have that aversion, if they recalibrated themselves and attracted those resources into their life, they can do so much good. Like you said, it magnifies your intentions. And if you're a pure person, then it's going to magnify that. You're going to be out in the world doing this amazing work. And I think that that's really the issue, is that people have problems with greed. Yes, greed is very bad. Coveting money is very bad. Letting it flow like an energy, bringing more of it into your life so you can channel it into these good things. That is truly light work, you could say.
Yeah, I have a good buddy of mine. He sold his company recently. He's part of our Maverick group that we run. And he did very well for himself, and he was already doing well before. And he just said, my lifetime goal is I want to give away 95% of it, but not give it away just to charity, but give it away to people that are doing amazing work and doing good things so that I can see that amplification and see those ripples of impact that I can help bring forth. And so there's, maybe you like, I love experiments, right? So I like also like pushing where I feel comfortable and my growth edges. And so one of the things that you could do is an experiment of, I called it the magic piggy bank. And so I had all these ideas and things that I wanted to create, and art included. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to ask one of my friends. I'm like, hey, what would be a dollar amount that, you said you always want to support some of the interesting things I'm doing. What would be a dollar amount that you would, it wouldn't even matter to you if it worked or didn't work? Like, what would it look like to create this magic piggy bank for just all sorts of experiments and fun things that we could do? And, he didn't even think about it, or sorry, he did think about it. He came back to me and gave me a dollar amount, and, it was great. I haven't, he's like, yeah, I'll wire you that amount tomorrow if you want. But it was an experiment in asking and receiving too of that. And then having that energy, because, I can go out tomorrow and go create, I don't know, revenue in some other way, but it was a new way of experimenting with asking, and not from a, I don't know, like a guilt version but it was like just truly being in alignment with higher service there, and not having joyful expectation of it'll show up or not, but not being attached to it. And that was a big thing.
Yes. I mean, you were just open again. And, it's just really getting people past that. Because like I said, if the spiritual people did tap into that more, we can just do the things that we want to do faster. I mean, money is the fuel of all of that.
Right. Well, let me take it back one more spot too, Jake, because I think it's really important. You keep talking, spiritual people. And I think there's this spot as well that happens where there's it's like you're naming something, right? So it's like, oh, even like, again, thinking back to our words, like, oh, that person's filthy rich, or that, or they must have done something wrong in order to get that, or like, so you're creating this separation between you and what you think you want less. So you really have to, like, there's something to go into these stories that we have and understand, like, if we're in that separation mode, or we're just really identifying that person as that they're not good in some way, and so we're better than them because we're spiritual. We don't need these material trappings or whatever it is.
Exactly, so that's the issue.
It's like you're cutting yourself off from that, even though you think that you're better than in some way. And again, I'm making maybe an assumption or a stereotype in some way, but it happens, and
it
so
creates blockages.
You got to really look at those words and those thoughts that you have that are separating you from that.
Yes. And just to remind people that everything is infinite. It's all made out of this one thing. Is it infinite intelligence? Is it original substance? Who knows what it is, but it's in back of the energy. It's behind the energy. It's just that one thing. And whatever that is, it's infinite. So you can attract the infinite into your life by coming into alignment.
Try an experiment. It's just like, give it 30. Yes. I like 33. I could do 33 days. I do lots of 33-day experiments and just see, okay. Well, like one of the things I actually have, one of my journals was connected to this, and I actually have it out. So this is perfect.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Each of my journals have a theme. And so this is, probably can't see it because we're not recording the
video. There's $100 bill, people, in a folder.
There's $100 bill with a bunch of doodles on it that I have. And then also this drawing that I created, which is a universe symbol with a big tongue out, which stands for the great cosmic joke. And then so my theme for this one was love to be compensated joyfully.
Yes.
And just this joyful abundance and tapping into that. So allowing, even like when little things show up, you find a couple pennies on the ground, or you find whatever it is. I had so many, I think it was during that journal time, we had some interesting things show up that were just like out of the blue. I won't tell you all of them because they sound almost too unbelievable, but I will tell you one that was really fun.
Okay.
Which is, so we're at the beach, and it's my family and I at the beach, and we're at our friend's place. And so my car doesn't start, or my wife's car doesn't start. And we're like, oh, all right, great. So I don't know why, but so we jump it with my friend's cables, And then we get to our place, and my wife, in her infinite knowledge, she's very smart. She's like, "Oh, well, we couldn't park it in the garage because someone, we might not be able to start it tomorrow morning." I'm like, whatever, it'll be fine. But so she's like, "No, just park it on the street." And where we were is a bit of like a partyish town where the meters only start. So we parked in a meter spot, and the meters start at like 10 p.m. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have to go out and go, feed the meter for the night. So I go out there, and literally sitting next to my car, I see a $10 bill or a $20 bill. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And so I pick it up, and it's actually $260 sitting next to my car. I'm like, oh, that's okay, interesting. And I also make a note of things that show up that are out of the ordinary, because usually there's some sort of synchronicity to it. So I pick it up, tell my wife, she's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So the next morning, of course, she was right. It didn't start again. And I call the local gas station, and they come over and give me a quick jump again. I go to the gas station or the service station and go get my car fixed up, and they actually have a battery there. It worked out well. I just walked around, meditated for a little bit, and then came back to go get my car repaired. And she's like, so the woman at the front counter, I'm like, okay, well, how much is it? And she gives me the bill, and I hand her the credit card. She's like, yeah, do you have any cash? Our credit card machine's not working. I'm like, well, actually I do. And I hand her, $260 plus whatever I had. And the bill was $261.
Oh my
So it was like
God.
this perfect, like it was literally exactly perfect. And so there's like another synchronicity it ties into, which is this number 260 kept showing up in different factors, because I was actually in study with this Mayan elder, and 260 is the number of the Sulcan. So it was just like another sort of like, I call these like winks from the universe, or like big time nudges.
Well, speaking of synchronicity, I mean, we just had the director for the Foundation for the Law of Time taking over Jose Arguelles' work about synchronicity just last week. And we were talking about the 13 moon calendar and a lot of the things that you're talking about right now. So we found that the synchronicity, the synchronizing of everything, that's the true timeline. And the artificial time creates those charged synchronistic experiences. But you had those when you were creating this wonderful journal, right? These are some of the magical things that were happening. Tell me about the Cosmic Journal. How did this start? What was your motivation for creating this?
Yeah, my motivation was really to create something for myself. So I saw, and I wish I could give credit to the person, but you'll find that it's called this 100-day experiment or art challenge. And it was kind of all over the internet. It happens a couple times a year. And I'm like, all right, 100 days of art. That sounds interesting and difficult because I travel around a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, but what would it look like? And I use my journal to kind of go through my thoughts as well. So in my journal, I'm like, well, what would it look like if I did this experiment for a long time period? And then I decided, well, I'm going to do it for 108 days. Obviously in the wisdom traditions, 108 is a much more meaningful number. And so what I did was I decided I'm gonna do it. And I have no idea what it's going to turn into. I just knew it was going to be one page, a journal page every single day, whatever flowed through me, whatever came forth, or I'd go back through years of journals and find stuff that I thought was interesting and redo them in some way. And it became the best part of my day when I get to that little check mark that I would get. Literally, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whenever it was, wherever I was. And then maybe about 40, 50 days into it, I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. I'm like using it like an oracle, and I'll just pop it open, the previous ones that I've done, and be like, all right, what do I need to know? And so it started working that way. And so when I got done with the 108 days, it was like one of my favorite things to carry around with me and show to people and show to my friends. And it literally was like, I wasn't planning on publishing it. I wasn't planning on, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with that. I might post a couple pictures on Instagram from it eventually. I had literally no idea. And some of the best things that you create are literally created for yourself. And that's what this was. And one of my buddies looked at it. He's like, dude, Yanik, I love this. I'm going to pay to publish it. And so he paid to put out 888 versions of this vegan leather edition. So we had this little version like this. It looks like this.
Oh, wow.
This purple vegan leather version.
Cool.
And then one of my buddies got me a breakfast meeting with the head of Hay House, which is one of the biggest, transformative book publishers out there. They publish people like Wayne Dyer, who, I'm a huge fan of. And so Reed Tracy, who's good friends with Wayne, he and I are having breakfast. And I show him this thing, and he's like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything quite like this." And so they fast forwarded a contract for the journal and for this deck of cards that I have, that Cosmic Journey Oracle. So it's been, really fascinating to see how something can just, take on an energy and life of its own by not having a plan for it necessarily, but just being in flow with whatever is coming up.
Yes, an interesting synchronicity. Somebody was just telling me 2 days ago, I didn't know this, that 108 was a cosmic number because of the episode 108 that I have on my podcast was with the sister of Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead. We were talking about channeling Jerry Garcia. I was telling him about this.
Oh, really?
And then he broke down how 108 was this cosmic number. I hadn't heard that before. And then you're telling me this now. This is synchronicity in action yet again.
I mean, 108 is, it's 108 mala beads, 108. I don't know, remember what you guys talked about there, but, there's 108. If you look at the moon and the earth and sun relationship, that's the big one. Is that what you talked about?
I'm not sure exactly what the context was at the time. It was a personal conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible. If you look up sun, moon, earth, 108, you'll see it's like to a 0.997 percentage correctness. It's something like, I think the earth, like 108 earths will fit to the sun is the distance to the sun, or maybe 108 earths are across the sun. I forgot what it is, but it's literally, there's an exact, very close number. And that's why it's such a sacred, unique number in that way. And there's multiple things around that too. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you call this a galactic instruction manual. Why is that?
Yeah. When I hand it to people, I'm like, this is your galactic instruction manual that you were missing when you were born to fulfill your destiny here. And that's the way I wrote it kind of for myself. Again, was
right.
Here's stuff you want to remember. Here's stuff that, are really important. And then, when there's new stuff coming in. So like, for instance, I mentioned that bloom where you're planted. That was a really interesting entry where I did this really intricate drawing because, again, every day was a drawing in some journal page. And so I did this intricate drawing and literally I was falling asleep. It was like 3:00 in the morning and my pen, like I nodded my head and my pen, I was originally going to write bloom where you're planted. And then I wrote PLANE. I'm like, shit. What am I going to do with this thing? And I don't believe, to me, there's no accidents. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? So then it came into bloom where you're planted. And then it had a whole different meaning. Again, kind of like what I told you, where are you? Like, why are you in that particular industry or category or whatever you're doing? Because there's a reason to bloom where you're planted. And so that entry really changed. And then there's other things in there that were just meaningful like that. Were just, I was deciding I might do part of it. And then like the labyrinth one is really one of my favorites. And that one needs a visual. Maybe in the show notes, we can link to a visual of it.
Sure. Or we'll post it on the main page.
There you go. Yeah. It's a really good one. Let me find it in the journal, but just as a good example of this, again, these just being in flow and synchronicity. Maybe if you find it first, let me know what page it is. I don't have all the page numbers.
53? Is it 53?
Yeah, it sounds. No, that's the spiral. Hold on. All right, page 93. So it looks like this.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So originally, it took me a long time to draw that labyrinth, and then originally I was just going to say you don't need to see the full path, just the next step. ... And I was going to be done. And then I'm like, I like following my intuition, and my intuitive hit was like, all right, I'm just going to keep going and see what shows up. And so it says, you don't need to see the full path, just the next step. And then the next one and the next one will open to you. Each step moves you closer to your center, even if you feel upside down and turned around. And at that point, the words are literally upside down from the center point and turned around. Maybe you feel like you're walking in circles further away from your goal. And this is on the outer edge of the labyrinth. Keep moving, keep going, one step forward, one step onwards until you see the next turn, which is on another turn in this labyrinth. The next twist in the road, the closer you get, you will be tested at the threshold. It's all within sight, and that's like really close to the center of the labyrinth, until you shift again. This time you come home again to yourself fully. So like that just like came through, and it was amazing where the words were like literally in the right spot according to where you are in the labyrinth. So you really got to see the visual of this, but it's pretty powerful.
We're going to post it right on the main page, people, right on midnightonearth.com. It's going to be right up front. You're going to see it and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. You look at it on your phone while we're talking.
So that kind of things, you know, are just magical. And again, it just continued. Like people would be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" You know, I cried when I opened up to the right page that I needed at that time, or the cards too have been really magical. So I feel like this would be a good spot, Jake, if you're up for it. Why don't we, your choice, maybe a card or a page out of the journal. So let's do a card.
Let's do a card. I have my set right here. So either I'm drawing or you drawing. You tell me.
You know what? You draw. Why don't you shuffle them up and you draw a card, and then we'll use that as part of our next conversation.
And people, Yanik blessed me with the gift of his book and the Cosmic Journey Oracle. It's one of the benefits of being a podcast. You meet incredible people, and occasionally you get gifts. It's awesome. Okay, so let's see.
All right.
Okay, so. There are no wrong turns. Oh my God.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
What number is that?
27.
27. All right. Well, that definitely falls into, you know, what we've been talking about. And so let me read you the card.
Okay.
And so it says, there are no wrong turns. What if you couldn't make a wrong decision, wrong move, or wrong turn? How much pressure would that eliminate from your life? All roads lead to the exact same place of perfect perfection, just arriving via different routes. You've come here with your cosmic assignment that keeps knocking over and over again. So don't worry, you won't miss it. We always want to be certain of our path, but life doesn't work like that. Sometimes you're almost there, and sometimes it feels like a long road ahead. It's only by embracing the ambiguity that you can create the surety you seek. So then there's a cosmic catalyst, which is a prompt, and then there's a cosmic checkbox, which is an action item. So I'll tell you that the prompt first, which is, what mistakes or wrong turns have I made that ultimately ended up benefiting me? So what mistakes or wrong turns have I made that ultimately ended up benefiting me? So I would give this as homework for anyone listening. Is, you know, this is a great little journal prompt for you for tonight or tomorrow. And you know, I always journal by usually meditating first, or just even taking like 3 deep breaths together. So let's play this out together here, Jake.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Let's do 3. We'll do 3 breaths together. You take just big 3 breaths in from your belly all the way up. And just let go. Help clear your mind a little bit. 1 more big breath in. And last one, really, really big, all the way up from the belly. And hold it at the top. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and let it go. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over, put the spotlight on you. So what mistakes or wrong turns have you made that ultimately end up benefiting you? I'll give you a moment to reflect on that.
Well, when I was a concert promoter, which I still kind of am on the side, my podcast thing is kind of my main gig now. I met a woman and we started a family. And at the time I was doing very well and going on a certain career path. But then, you know, having a family changed that. Sometimes I wondered if I jumped timelines or what happened there. But then, of course, my family's so beautiful and I love my wife and my kids are amazing. I've had experiences that transcend anything that I could have taken had I been Mr. Concert Promoter guy. Which I still am, you know, on the side, but you know, it was a growing career path at that moment. So that benefited me. My God, my family. I mean, there's nothing that even compares.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and journaling is a great process for this, but really any kind of reflection, because you get to look at, especially when you're faced with really meaningful choice points in your life, and you're like, okay, well, you know, and you're stuck and you don't know what to do. But if you start thinking about it kind of can feel very paralyzing that I don't know what direction to use or go or whatever. But if this idea, like there's no wrong turns and you just keep getting rerouted to what you're meant to be doing.
Exactly.
And you just, you come here with your cosmic assignment, it keeps knocking you, kind of knocking you. I call it the cosmic alarm clock. You can either hit snooze or you can answer it, but it's going to keep going off and in multiple ways. And it could be listening to an episode like this. It could be having a book randomly show up for you. It could be a lyric in a song. Like I feel like there's all these activations that we maybe have pre-programmed for ourselves, or that others are reflections for us, and then that keeps moving us in this right direction. So you can't make a wrong turn.
I think that's beautiful. And I love that we did that together, because it's true. You're always on the right path. And, I did wonder at that time, like, did I get knocked off my spiritual assignment, like you were saying? But no, really, my family was my spiritual assignment. And I now have children that are amazing, manifesting light workers with incredible training out in the world.
Wow.
And then I'm now back still doing concert productions.
Yeah, well, I think that, and one of the cards in here, there's so many great ones, but one talks about these evolutionary turns, and that so many of us are like, oh, I want to get to this next level or this next thing. And it requires giving up something from a previous identity in order to make this next evolutionary shift as well. And at the same time, I think that there, we talked about this concept of play, and play also involves encouraging our inner child to come back online. So, if this, the concert promotion thing or whatever you loved as a kid, it's like, how do we bring it back into a higher essence of what it is, where we are exactly?
Oh, what we have cooking, Yanik, is amazing. And if you want to come do a workshop, we could talk about this after the episode. I'm inviting you right now on the show. 157 countries around the world are listening to this. So I guess you're there if you have to be there. So tell me more about the benefits of journaling. You feel like this came out of this book, which is amazing, but there's more to it. Like, what do people gain from daily journaling?
Well, do you journal, Jake?
I don't, honestly. I'm so busy all the time. I wake up and it's like mate, and I'm just like, go, go, go.
Yeah. So, but you've heard about journaling before, obviously.
Yes.
And have you tried it ever?
Not since I was in my early 20s.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I meet a lot of people that are like, so well, first let's talk about the benefits of journaling. Okay. So journaling's actually been scientifically proven in peer-reviewed studies to make you happier, because it typically creates a beginning, a middle, and an end on the page. So we're meaning-making machines. We have our own stories that we're bringing forth, and so this creates a way of processing all the things that we're experiencing, and so journaling, and it literally doesn't matter what you're journaling about. So I can start writing about something, and what I end up writing about usually is not going to be the same thing. And so I love, again, these experiments, right? So if I can make a recommendation or a prescription, it would be a journaling experiment as well. So it could be.
No, I'll do it. Let's do it right now. Let's set one for myself and the audience. Yeah, okay. Let's do it right now. Let's set a goal for myself and our audience. What should we do? 10 days of journaling? Tell me, Yanik.
Yeah, I mean, I love specific numbers. So let's say 11 days.
11 days.
That'll be something doable. So, again, my experiments are typically at least 33 days, but 11 days, if that feels really doable. It's funny, Spartan race. Have you seen that? The big adventure races where you're doing like really, really hard things where you're.
Is it kind of like the Ironman triathlon where you're just going through multiple disciplines?
Yeah. Or? Like a mud run, but much higher intensity one. A lot of people probably know what they are. The Spartan race, or there's a couple others. But so the guy who founded Spartan, like they put on, like there's millions of people that go through their races, and he's a really tough guy. He'll do, his name is Joe DeSena. He'll do like 300 burpees every single day. And so we did an event with him in his house in Vermont, and so I was talking about journaling, and he was talking about burpees. So I took on the burpees challenge for 33 days, not 300 of them, mind you, but I think I did 33 per day for 33 days. And then he took on journaling for 33 days, and he's like texting me, he's like, dude, this is freaking hard. He's like feelings and he's like, this is really hard. But he got through it and I give him credit for it. So, we'll do 11 days.
Okay.
So 11 days. And then to make this work, like you want to make sure that you succeed, right? Like we want to make it as easy as possible. So a lot of people get really frustrated because they're like, oh, I need to journal for an hour or, a half hour every single day. Like make it the least, like the minimal sort of win for yourself. So, even like 10 minutes works. But what I do is I'll journal typically before I go to bed. And so you want to create a spot, like so it's not so haphazard. Like it's not like it's actually something that is going to be happening. And especially if it's during this time where you're really trying to build potentially a new habit. I love experiments too, because there's a beginning and there's an end, and you decide like, all right, is this interesting? Do I want to add it to my life? Did it enhance my life? Or I'm like, no, I'm good. And so like when you're learning meditation or you're learning something else, it's not a light switch moment. Like you don't get the benefit of meditation just from one meditative session, but like same with journaling. So you build up the benefits of it, but you'll start seeing it. And again, 11 days might be enough, might be longer, but make it an easy win for yourself. So set a time. It could be like before bed. It could be first thing in the morning, whatever it is. You want to create that time where you're like, okay, this is going to be my little space for it, and make it 10 minutes, make it super easy. And then some people love prompts. Other people are like, I don't know what to write about. So if you need, a prompt, like using the Cosmic Journey Oracle is a good way of journaling, because you'll pull up something and it really ties into something. You can use the actual journal itself, because you can flip it open and then journal on the left side of the page, or literally, any kind of journal. So I love colored markers. It really helps too, because it just creates a little bit more fun, playfulness when you're drawing or you're adding things into it. You don't have to do it. You want to create also a journal that you're going to enjoy, right? Like, so everyone can start with whatever they want. It could be a legal pad, but for me, it's like, I want a nicer journal because it's like my ideas and insights are worth it.
Yes.
So you want to do everything possible to feel really excited about it as well. And then also don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, don't be like, oh, I gotta solve this huge issue from it, or I got to, I don't know, go as deep as possible. Like, the other thing people get really wrapped up in is if someone else is going to read my journal. And so if you feel like that, where you can't be honest in your journal because you're like worried that your kids or your wife or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, like whoever's going to read it, like you could have a little lockbox or whatever. You can also, just like journal, it's just for you, right? Like don't as much as you can, don't censor yourself, but it also helps, like if you feel safe to express yourself in there, and then just see what happens. Go ahead, you got a question.
I was just going to say, do you feel like it releases energy and organizes the mind? Like you kind of get to see an overview, like you said, the beginning, the middle, and an end. But then it also kind of releases the energy as you go through it, like some sort of like internal counseling, you could say, just by putting it on the paper.
Massively. Yeah, absolutely. Just, it's a processing way. And then there's other ways of like, so now that I've been doing it for many, many years, and I've learned some really great techniques that go even deeper. So like I mentioned to you when I was kind of in this, I don't know, like going sideways phase with Maverick, I use my left hand, my non-dominant hand, to ask. I love questions too. Like, so asking really great questions can set you up for a great journaling session. That's why these prompts, like especially in the cards, are really powerful. But so I asked, what would my 111-year-old self tell me? And then that was that answer of light 1,000 suns who can each light another 1,000 suns. And that really became the framework and mission for what I'm doing. So if you're stuck in a spot, you can use your non-dominant hand and bring that in. And so there's lots of really powerful ways of getting answers that you might be seeking. And that's where it gets exciting too. It doesn't have to be like, you want to do anything that feels exciting. Like, you're not going to do it if it feels tedious and it feels like work, right? So, going back to our theme of play, like if it feels playful, of the self-exploration, then that's what we want to do. And it was actually in the journals that my doodling and art started coming back. As a kid, I wanted to be a professional hockey player and a cartoonist in the off season. And it took, my first journals were like very black and white. And then I started doodling a little bit, and now they're like these really big, colorful explorations of all sorts of stuff. And so it's fun. Like keep it fun for yourself.
Yes, there is an energy release, and it's fun. You do gain something from it as well. And
yeah, exactly.
Oracles, like you said, can be used as a prompt, because it seems like your oracles and the other oracles that are out there, they seem to be tapping into like the essence of tarot. Right? Like you're creating these energetic points with a framework behind them. They have these representations, but a lot of it's kind of open to interpretation and adaptation to your own life. But still, there's this container, and somehow that gives you this portal to non-linear information. It's really interesting. What do you think about that? What is that?
Well, so I'm definitely not a tarot expert at all, and I've worked with it a little bit, so I can't say. To me, the oracle is different than a tarot, because that's based on, there's a lot of interesting sort of esoteric knowledge with the tarot. It's with the seasons and the all sorts of things. But so for me, the oracle taps into synchronicity, this local consciousness that would, like, even like the card that we pulled, that you pulled, was connected to our last conversation about the labyrinth, about there's no wrong turns.
Right.
And of course, again, as we're meaning making machines, we can be like, oh, of course that, I see this meaning here, but there's been too many times when something has just shown up that is way beyond a coincidence. It's just so much more meaningful. And the cards have been so powerful in that way, because I think they're infused with a certain kind of energy. Because I would say that, yes, my name is on here as the creator, but I didn't create them. Like, it feels like it came through me in some way. And that's why every time I work with them, like, I eat my own dog food. If I have, something I'm continuing to play with and work with and wrestle with, I'm going to use my cards as well. And it's just really, really powerful.
Wow. Well, I mean, it is channeled. Like you said, you feel like you channeled it, but you did kind of charge it with love. You charged it with really good intentions. Like you wanted it to heal people. So there is a little bit of your signature in there.
Oh yeah, no, therethere's definitely, like we talked about, like the universe has this pure energy and source coming through, and then each individual entity of this universal consciousness has their own paradigms and lenses and views and beliefs. They're all shaping it, and that's where it gets interesting.
Tying it back like a hoop. Well, we've had a wonderful conversation. There's so much that we can talk about. You're bringing consciousness into business. You're helping people with this wonderful oracle in this journal. But what are some other things before we go, and before I tell people about where to find you and everything? Tell our audience one thing that you really want them to focus on, not just the 11-day challenge that we gave people for journaling, but just something bigger.
Yeah. You know what? Let's go into the journal and see what is the bigger message. So I'm gonna pull up something here. Let's see. All right, this is a good one. So it says, "Are you wearing purple glasses?" So I use the purple one, so I don't know what page it would be in your journal.
Okay.
But so it says, "Are you wearing purple glasses?" And that's what I ask my kids. I want to explain how our judgments, filters, and preset attitude impact what we see and how we respond. I would ask my son Zach, if one of his friends did what Zoe, his sister, did to him, would he react in the same way? Of course, the answer is no, but wearing purple glasses makes everything look like it has a purple tint to them. An annoyance beyond what happens when others would do something to them. We pass everything through our own filters and beliefs, attempting to make it line up. Wow, it's pretty fascinating, since we were just talking about literally that. With what we expect, so we pass everything through our own filters and beliefs, attempting to make it line up with what we expect to see or have happen. Try changing someone's mind about a deeply held political or religious idea, and it won't happen. Everything that fits our worldview looks purple. But then I thought, why should purple glasses be about a bias that doesn't serve us? What if the colored purple lenses were about preconceived idea of a grand cosmic destiny unfolding before your eyes? Everything you see happening is actually happening for your highest evolutionary growth. Every meeting, book, resource, ally, and event is there for you. Every so-called obstacle or setback moves you more and more in alignment with your true path that is shown in purple. They're much better than rose-colored glasses. Purple reveals your cosmic blueprint unfolding perfectly purple. Purple is associated with supernatural energy in the cosmos because it is the closest visible wavelength of electromagnetic energy, a few steps from X-rays and gamma rays. Wow, that's pretty good.
That was pretty epic. And for people that are about to get the Cosmic Journal, it's page 131. So when you do get that, you can find that page. And my God, talk about synchronicity.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, I eat my own dog food, which is, you can see in my copy of the journal, the right-hand page is that page. And the left-hand page is me actually journaling and doodling on what shows up for me.
Well, that could be the revised edition. The second edition includes your own personal input.
It could be. Yeah, it definitely could be. But, that notion of, purple glasses or our filter or lenses is so powerful, right? But because it's like we see people who have these built-in biases, but what if the purple glasses were like you were saying at the very beginning, and I think this fits right into it, is like, what if this was all about this grand cosmic destiny unfolding before your eyes, and everything you see happening is actually happening for your highest evolutionary growth?
Exactly. And then
that's a pretty powerful way.
You can let go. You let go of all the self-judgment, the guilt, the negative energy, because that energy itself, that holding the energy, takes away from your manifestation ability and what you can create with your talent, in your service, fulfilling your purpose in this world. Wow. Yeah.
Use some of these artifacts as just fun ways of tapping into that power and magic too. So, maybe it is when you're journaling, maybe you buy a pair of purple tinted glasses and you wear those for your 11-day experiment to see what happens. Or, I just made that up, but that'd be a great way of playing around.
Yes, because we do kind of create the own parameters for our spiritual experience. We can design it ourselves. Yeah. We can rely on external input if we need to until we don't, or we can just design it ourselves. We have this perfect, beautiful relationship with that thing that's bigger than us, and it's going to communicate with you in the way that you design, if you design it and believe it.
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever read this guy, Itzhak Bentov? He's kind of not as well known.
No.
He's got, you would really like it. He was like an inventor. He was also in the Israeli army, invented a bunch of interesting things, but he was an inventor, and he'd use meditation to then basically, look at what the universe like. In one of his books, he talks about that, if you're an engineer, the universe is going to reveal to itself in the mechanicalistic aspects. If you're an artist, it's going to reveal itself in art. If you're a poet, it's going to reveal to it in poetry. So it's like allowing that awareness of how the universe can continue sort of talking to you is really, really powerful. And it's going to show up in all sorts of ways.
Yes, and it can be very specific to your personality. That's the thing, because there's no true dissection from that source. So that source knows exactly who you are, what you like, and how you talk, and all of those things.
And, if you keep track in your journal as one, possibility, you can start seeing things like that where it's sometimes years apart. There could be one layer of a synchronicity or a message, and then multiple years down the road, you're like, oh, wow, there's another layer of this that I just realized, or something else, because it's always like sort of unfolding in this perfect way. And you're, it's just, I don't know, it's magical. It's all inspiring. And it's just so much fun in that.
Well, you say awe-inspiring too. We've had a guest on who talked about the power of awe. There was a lot of synchronicities in this episode, I'd have to say. You're a fantastic person. I really appreciate you being on. You've really enlightened us to a lot of different things.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. I appreciate you, taking a random email and saying, "Hey, yeah, I'd like a cosmic journal."
No, I read energy when I know, and I saw that right away. I was like, "Yes, of course." Like I felt it. It's our cosmic connection. It's because we're similar frequency human beings. I love Earl Nightingale. You talk about that. I'm sure we've studied some of the same prosperity teachers, and therefore we matched our frequency. Boom. And here we are talking to each other, enlightening people, a lot of people around the world. So here we are. So
by
thank
the
you
way,
for being
what shows up for me as you're talking about that, or intuitively kind of hits on that, is you mentioned Earl Nightingale. And so I love words and I love names, right? Like Earl Nightingale. Nightingale is this beautiful songbird.
Yes.
And Earl has for those who've never heard Earl, look him up on, I think there's some on Spotify too, and other places, but look him up because he has a very distinctive voice, this gravelly, beautiful voice.
1950s.
It's not a songbird.
Audio.
It's not, yeah, exactly. And then, your last name, Weaver, I feel like, there's something there where you're weaving these strands of universal energy and these, I don't know, like if you talked about your exact mission, I bet it has something to do with weaving.
That's all I do in my life is network and bring people together on so many different levels. That's always what I've done my entire life.
Yeah.
And then you think about silver, the metaphysical spiritual metal. I mean, it's a powerful metal and it transmits spiritual energy. So here we go.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, let me tell people where to find you. YanikSilver.com. That's right away, Yanik Silver, and you spell that YANIKSILVER, YanikSilver.com. You can also check out Maverick1000.com, and that talks about some of the things that we touched on in this episode, some of the journeys he's taken with other people, kind of evolving things in the business world, which is where evolvedenterprise.com comes into play, because you can find out about the book Evolved Enterprise, which again touches on some of the things we talked about at the beginning of the episode. And the journal, the Cosmic Journal, that's available on Amazon and wherever actually you can get books for purchase. It's available. And then the Cosmic Journey Oracle deck, that is actually just like a companion piece. I highly recommend just getting both of them. And then you have the full spectrum of this information. But you get the Oracle deck and you create a situation where you're journaling based on that, or you're pulling these things out to help heal yourselves or whoever you share it with that gains from it. And of course, let's do that 11-day challenge, people. This episode debuts Thursday, February 16th, and we're going to start an 11-day challenge. And I want people to email me, Instagram me, if you're doing it, if you're journaling after the 11 days, tell me what happened. Tell me if you've had an effect. If you feel like reaching out to Yanik, do that. I'm sure his email is readily available on his website. Tell him directly your experience with that. And thank you again, Yanik, for being here. Very much appreciate it. We're definitely having you back on. We're going to talk more about some of these spiritual concepts in the business world, because we want enlightened, high-frequency people to dive into the third dimension, create these entities so we can evolve the entire planet. Okay? Can we do this, people? Yanik's going to help you get there. So thank you for being here. And please hold through the outro music. Everyone, do all the things I just told you, because you need to do it. You're going to gain from it. And we'll see you next week. Midnight on Earth.